Welcome, rare gems. Imagine growing up with a mother who's supposed to be your first source of love and support, but instead she's the one draining your energy, shifting blame, and making everything about her. For a Sigma female, a woman who values her independence, clarity, and self-worth, dealing with a narcissistic mother is like constantly navigating emotional landmines. A Sigma female doesn't just survive this. She redefines the rules and holds her ground with a kind of strength that's both fierce and quietly unshakable. She's not drawn into power games, guilt traps, or endless battles for approval. Instead, she stands firm, creating boundaries and protecting her own sense of self without apology. While most people might feel trapped, a Sigma refuses to be molded or diminished. Her approach isn't about revenge or rebellion. It's about staying true to herself, regardless of the emotional chaos around her. This isn't an easy path, it's raw and requires brutal honesty. But the Sigma female understands that her mother's behavior isn't hers to fix. Her focus, rising above it and living on her own terms, no matter how complex, messy, or unconventional that might look. Let's dive into 12 brutally honest truths about the experiences of a Sigma female and a narcissist mom. Let's get started, rare gems. For a more in-depth understanding, I invite you to watch the entire video and share your opinions in the comments below. Number 1. She rewrites the mother-daughter rulebook. A Sigma female knows that trying to follow the usual mother-daughter expectations with a narcissistic mother is a losing game. The idea of a loving, supportive mother who wants what's best for her daughter simply doesn't fit here. Instead of holding on to that fantasy, she strips away the illusions and sees her mother as she truly is, flaws, self-interest, and all. This isn't about being cold, it's about being clear. She understands that waiting for warmth or validation will only lead to frustration and disappointment. So she doesn't rely on her mother for emotional support or approval. In her world, she decides what the relationship will look like on her terms, and with her boundaries firmly in place. She doesn't get tangled in guilt, nor does she feel the need to fix her mother's issues. Her approach is practical, rooted in the understanding that love doesn't mean sacrificing her own well-being. She's fully aware that her mother's behavior is driven by self-centered motives and has nothing to do with her own worth. This awareness frees her to act in ways that serve her best, without needing to explain herself or seek permission. A Sigma female redefines what family means by protecting her peace, rather than trying to conform to a relationship that only takes. Her self-respect and clarity become her guide, allowing her to engage or disengage without losing herself in the process. Number 2, she withstands the golden child versus scapegoat trap. A Sigma female understands the manipulation game that often comes with having a narcissistic mother, how she'll pit siblings against each other, casting one as the golden child and another as the scapegoat. These roles are designed to keep everyone off balance, constantly craving approval or scrambling to avoid blame. But a Sigma sees through this toxic tactic. She's not interested in any label her mother tries to impose, whether it's being put on a pedestal today or blamed for every problem tomorrow. This divide-and-conquer approach doesn't work on her. Instead of competing for favor or resenting her siblings, she steps back and observes the situation with clear-eyed detachment. She refuses to internalize the labels or let them dictate her worth. Whether praised or criticized, she remains steady, understanding that these roles are just tools her mother uses to maintain control. This strength sets her apart. Where others might be drawn into the trap, feeling either superior or resentful, a Sigma female rejects both. She won't let her mother's shifting opinions define her identity or her relationship with her siblings. By refusing to play the game, she breaks the cycle of rivalry and resentment that her mother tries to cultivate. She's too grounded to be swayed by fleeting judgments and too wise to let herself be used as a pawn. This self-assurance allows her to stay connected to who she really is, untouched by her mother's divisive tactics. Number 3, she dismisses faux apologies and fake nice moments. A Sigma female sees through the hollow apologies and insincere kindness that her narcissistic mother occasionally throws her way. These moments, dripping with faux warmth or the classic "I'm sorry," are designed to pull her back in, to make her lower her guard and forget the hurt for a little while. But a Sigma is too sharp to fall for it. She knows these gestures aren't signs of real change, they're just tactics. A quick fix to regain control or smooth things over until the next inevitable blow-up. She doesn't reward these crumbs of affection because she understands they come with strings attached. A superficial smile here, a reluctant sorry there. It's all part of the manipulation cycle. Her mother uses these gestures like bait, hoping they'll be enough to reel her back into old patterns. But a Sigma has learned that genuine love and accountability don't come with conditions, and she refuses to settle for half-hearted gestures that lead nowhere. By dismissing these fake apologies and nice moments, she takes control of her emotional boundaries. She isn't swayed by temporary niceties or short-lived affection, and she won't let herself get dragged back into a relationship that only takes from her. This clear-eyed stance keeps her free and focused, allowing her to protect her peace without feeling guilty or second-guessing herself. She knows her worth, and she's done chasing approval that was never truly hers to begin with. Number 4. She strategically controls information about her life. A Sigma female knows that when dealing with a narcissistic mother, information can be a powerful tool and often a weapon. She understands the importance of strategic communication, so she shares only what's absolutely necessary and keeps her personal life closely guarded. This isn't about being secretive, it's about self-protection. By limiting the information she reveals, she takes away any potential ammunition her mother could use against her. Every detail about her plans, emotions, and relationships is carefully curated. While her mother might be accustomed to prying into her life, the Sigma deftly avoids sharing anything that could lead to manipulation or emotional blackmail. When asked about her feelings or her choices, she gives vague answers or redirects the conversation. This keeps her mother frustrated and in the dark, unable to exert control over her. This strategic withholding doesn't just protect her, it also empowers her. By controlling the narrative, she asserts her independence and establishes boundaries. She doesn't feel obligated to fill her mother's need for information, nor does she let her mother's curiosity dictate her life choices. Instead, she thrives in her privacy, using it as a shield against the emotional turbulence that often accompanies a narcissistic relationship. In a world where sharing is often seen as vulnerability, she flips the script. Her ability to keep her life's details under wraps is a form of resilience, allowing her to navigate her relationship with her mother on her own terms, ultimately leading to a healthier sense of self and a stronger foundation for her future. We appreciate you, Rare Gems, for being a treasured subscriber. Your consistent support is vital to us and fuels our passion for delivering meaningful content. Thank you for your engagement and encouragement. Number 5. She doesn't explain her choices. A Sigma female lives by her own rules, especially when it comes to making decisions about her life. She knows that seeking her narcissistic mother's approval would be a pointless exercise, a well-worn trap where explanations only serve as ammunition for criticism. So instead of justifying herself, she keeps her choices private and her actions purposeful. This isn't about hiding, she has nothing to hide, but about protecting her peace and focusing on what truly matters to her. Her silence isn't an act of rebellion, it's a form of self-preservation. She understands that sharing too much only invites judgment and manipulation, so she moves with a quiet confidence that doesn't seek validation. Every step she takes, every goal she pursues is done without the weight of her mother's opinion hanging over her. This way, her energy stays focused, undistracted by endless explanations or attempts to make others understand. A Sigma female is unapologetic about this approach because she values her own clarity over the need to be liked or understood. Her mother may question, criticize, or even resent her silence, but it doesn't affect her course. By refusing to explain herself, she creates a boundary that her mother can't penetrate. This allows her to live authentically, building a life on her own terms, free from the emotional traps that come from seeking validation where none will be given. Number 6. She becomes her own parent. A Sigma female understands that relying on her narcissistic mother for emotional support is a recipe for disappointment. Instead, she steps into the role of her own parent. nurturing herself in ways she never received growing up. This journey of self-reparenting is both empowering and transformative. She learns to be compassionate toward herself, offering the kind of love and understanding she craved but rarely experienced. When she feels hurt or overwhelmed, she comforts herself like a caring parent would, reminding herself that it's okay to feel and that her emotions are valid, but she doesn't stop there. A Sigma female also brings a firm hand to her self-care, setting boundaries that protect her well-being. She recognizes when she's being pulled into unhealthy dynamics, and she isn't afraid to push back against those patterns. This duality of compassion and firmness allows her to grow into a stronger, more resilient individual. She holds herself accountable, guiding her decisions with a sense of purpose and clarity. In this process, she cultivates a rich inner dialogue, replacing the negative self-talk often instilled by her upbringing with affirmations of strength and worth. She learns to celebrate her achievements, no matter how small, and to forgive herself for mistakes. By becoming her own parent, she not only fills the gaps left by her upbringing, but also creates a safe and nurturing environment within herself. This powerful shift fosters self-love and resilience, ultimately equipping her to navigate life on her terms, free from the constraints of her past. Number 7. She holds her ground no matter the emotional blackmail. A Sigma female has learned to recognize emotional blackmail for what it is, a desperate, manipulative ploy designed to keep her in line. Her narcissistic mother might try every trick in the book, threatening to withdraw love, making exaggerated claims of suffering, or guilt-tripping her with tales of everything she's supposedly done for her. These tactics are meant to make her feel guilty, weak, or indebted, nudging her to sacrifice her own needs to save or appease her mother. But a Sigma doesn't bend under pressure like this. She won't let someone else's emotional theatrics dictate her choices. She sees through the crocodile tears and empty threats, knowing that real love doesn't demand constant sacrifice or self-betrayal. So, when her mother tries to play the victim or act as though her world is falling apart, the Sigma doesn't feel compelled to rush in and fix everything. She refuses to live in fear of lost love or to be guilted into submission. This isn't about being cold-hearted. It's about protecting her boundaries and her mental peace. Her strength lies in her willingness to walk away if it comes down to it. She knows her worth and understands that a healthy relationship doesn't hinge on one person controlling another through guilt and fear. So she holds her ground, standing firm in the face of any attempt to manipulate her. She's not here to be controlled. She's here to live on her own terms, free from the chains of anyone's emotional blackmail. Number 8. She embraces radical acceptance. A Sigma female knows that clinging to the hope that her narcissistic mother will change is a fruitless endeavor. Instead, she embraces radical acceptance, a powerful mindset that allows her to see her mother for who she truly is, flaws and all. This acceptance is not about condoning her mother's behavior. It's about recognizing that her mother's limitations are deeply ingrained and unlikely to shift. By letting go of the desire for her mother to be different, she liberates herself from the constant cycle of disappointment that has plagued her for so long. This radical acceptance acts as a shield against emotional turmoil. It enables her to observe her mother's actions without being emotionally swept away by them. When her mother's narcissism rears its head, instead of feeling hurt or frustrated, she acknowledges it as part of her mother's nature. This perspective allows her to detach emotionally, reducing the impact of her mother's words and actions on her own self-worth. As she learns to navigate her relationship with her mother through this lens, she finds the strength to create healthy distance when needed. This isn't a rejection, it's a form of self-preservation. By accepting her mother's limitations, she empowers herself to prioritize her own emotional well-being. This shift transforms her relationship dynamic, allowing her to engage with her mother on her own terms, one defined by clarity, strength, and a profound understanding of what she can and cannot change. Ultimately, radical acceptance is a crucial tool for her to cultivate peace in a relationship that might otherwise be fraught with conflict and pain. Number 9. She puts herself first without apology. A Sigma female knows that putting herself first isn't selfish. It's essential. She's seen the toll that self-sacrifice can take, how it often leads to resentment, frustration, and even burnout. She's learned that bending over backward for a narcissistic mother only drains her, leaving her with nothing left for herself or the life she wants to build. So she drops the guilt and places her own needs at the center, unashamedly and without hesitation. This isn't about ignoring her mother, it's about setting limits to protect her own energy. She recognizes that constantly putting her mother's demands first would mean sacrificing her own happiness and peace of mind. A Sigma female refuses to lose herself in someone else's drama, no matter how close the relationship. She has no interest in playing the endless game of emotional give and take, where her efforts are rarely appreciated or even acknowledged. She doesn't need anyone's permission, least of all her mother's, to prioritize her own well-being. She has a strong sense of self-worth and doesn't wait for external validation to feel justified. Her decisions might not sit well with others, but she's more committed to her own health and peace than to trying to please people who only take. By choosing herself, she's ensuring that she has the strength to face life on her terms, rather than letting anyone, family included, dictate who she should be or how she should live. Number 10. She refuses to be the emotional dumping ground. A Sigma female understands that her mother's emotional baggage isn't hers to carry, no matter how hard her mother might try to make it so. Narcissistic mothers often use their daughters as emotional dumping grounds, treating them like therapists or problem solvers who are supposed to absorb all their anger, insecurities, and disappointments. But a Sigma refuses to take on that role. She knows it's not her job to fix her mother's unresolved issues, childhood traumas, or daily grievances, and she won't allow herself to be burdened by someone else's chaos. She sees through the guilt trips and the dramatic venting sessions that serve no purpose other than to unload negativity onto her. Rather than getting sucked into this emotional vortex, a Sigma sets firm boundaries. She keeps her interactions measured, listening just enough but never letting herself become the solution to problems that aren't hers. This approach isn't about being heartless. It's about survival and self-respect. She understands that constantly acting as her mother's emotional sponge would only drain her, leaving her feeling resentful and weighed down by issues she never asked to carry. By stepping out of this toxic dynamic, she keeps her emotional world her own. Her energy goes where she chooses, not where someone else dumps it. In doing so, she frees herself to focus on her own growth, her own peace, and her own well-being, knowing she has every right to prioritize herself without guilt or apology. Number 11. She masters empathic detachment, not empathy. A Sigma female recognizes that empathy, while a valuable trait, can often be weaponized by narcissists to manipulate and control those around them. Instead of falling into this trap, she masters the art of empathic detachment. This means she can understand and acknowledge her mother's feelings without becoming emotionally entangled in her drama. She sees the hurt and insecurity driving her mother's narcissistic behavior, but she doesn't allow those emotions to dictate her own. Empathic detachment empowers her to observe her mother's struggles without absorbing the negativity or guilt that often accompanies such interactions. She maintains a healthy distance, recognizing that her mother's issues are not her own to fix. This perspective allows her to respond to her mother's attempts at manipulation with clarity and composure, rather than reacting out of emotional obligation or guilt. By practicing empathic detachment, she creates a safe emotional space for herself. She can listen to her mother's concerns without getting pulled into the chaos, allowing her to remain grounded and in control. This doesn't mean she lacks compassion, rather she chooses to extend compassion without sacrificing her emotional health. She understands that being there for her mother doesn't require her to take on the role of caretaker or therapist. Instead, she can offer support from a place of strength, ensuring that she doesn't lose herself in the process. This mastery of empathic detachment transforms her interactions, making them less about fulfilling her mother's emotional needs and more about maintaining her own well-being. It's a powerful tool that helps her navigate the complexities of their relationship with grace. allowing her to protect her emotional energy while still holding space for her mother's struggles. Number 12. She chooses facts over emotional storytelling. A Sigma female understands that emotional storytelling can easily spiral out of control, especially when dealing with a narcissistic mother who thrives on drama and manipulation. Rather than getting drawn into her mother's intricate narratives filled with exaggerations and emotional pleas, she chooses to focus on facts. This approach allows her to maintain clarity and distance from the emotional chaos that often surrounds her mother's issues. By aligning herself with facts, she sees her mother for who she truly is, accepting the reality of her behavior without allowing it to cloud her judgment. This means acknowledging her mother's tendencies and the patterns that define their relationship, rather than getting lost in the stories that often serve to elicit sympathy or control. She knows that her mother's perception of events is often skewed, shaped by her narcissism and desire for validation. This commitment to factual awareness frees her from the emotional traps her mother sets. When her mother attempts to twist reality to elicit guilt or manipulate her feelings, the Sigma female can calmly assert her boundaries without being swayed by emotional appeals. She understands that her mother's narrative does not define her reality or dictate her worth. Instead, she remains rooted in her own truth, making decisions based on her understanding of the situation rather than emotional responses. This clarity allows her to engage with her mother on a level that is constructive rather than reactive. By prioritizing facts over emotional storytelling, she transforms potentially toxic interactions into opportunities for healthy boundaries and personal empowerment. It's a strategy that not only protects her mental well-being, but also reinforces her identity as someone who defines her own reality, independent of her mother's emotional manipulations. In wrapping up the journey of Sigma females and a narcissistic mother, in navigating the complex relationship with a narcissistic mother, Sigma females demonstrate a remarkable strength and resilience that sets them apart. By embracing radical acceptance, they free themselves from the cycle of disappointment and emotional turmoil, choosing instead to understand their mother's limitations without internalizing the pain. Their ability to practice empathic detachment allows them to support their mother while maintaining their own emotional health, creating a safe distance that shields them from manipulation. Moreover, Sigma females excel in setting firm boundaries, treating this practice as essential to their well-being rather than a one-time fix. They know that by prioritizing themselves and refusing to be the emotional dumping ground for their mother, they can cultivate a sense of independence and peace. Choosing facts over emotional narratives empowers them to disengage from their mother's drama, anchoring their identity in reality rather than in the tumultuous stories crafted by narcissism. Ultimately, Sigma females emerge as their own advocates, reshaping their relationship with their mothers on their own terms. This journey is not about severing ties, but about redefining the connection, allowing space for growth and healing. By holding their ground and refusing to be controlled, they become the architects of their emotional landscapes, demonstrating that self-preservation and love can coexist even in the most challenging familial dynamics. Their approach is a testament to their inner strength, showcasing that they can honor their needs while navigating a complicated legacy with grace and clarity. Thank you, Rare Gems, for tuning in. Stay safe and stay vigilant as always. God bless.